I've just passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I thought I'd make another one of these Q&A videos. So I'm just going to be answering comments that I've gathered from the comment section. But before I do, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who has subscribed, watched a video, liked a video, commented on a video. I really appreciate you, thank you. This, or the SR300. So I think this is asking, should you buy the Ibanez SR300 or the Ibanez Micro that I reviewed that I can't remember the name of because it's too long. Ibanez, you don't have very catchy bass names. Come up with some better bass names. I'll put it here. So these two basses are very different. The SR300 is a full-size bass. The one that I reviewed is a very short scale bass. That's probably the first thing you've got to ask yourself. Do you want a short scale, an extremely short scale, or do you want a full-size bass? So I listed some reasons why you might want a short scale. So you might want that short scale sound. You might have small hands, so you might be quite young. Somebody else also pointed out in the comments that it's an extremely light bass. So it's nice and easy to gig with. So if you've got a bad back or any ailment that would stop you from carrying a very heavy bass, you know, this could be a good choice. So the SR300 is active, so that means you need a battery for it. It gives you more tone options, gives you an EQ on board the bass. It'll also give you a punchier sound and a higher output. One of my students has one of these basses and I have played it and I think it's decent, so I would recommend buying it. For the price, it's excellent. I think Ibanez have always offered good quality beginner to intermediate basses at affordable prices, so I recommend both. Did I see flat one strings and Baritone pickups? Yes, you did. This is, so I did a video about this when I changed the pickups. You can check that out here or here. So here are the Baritone pickups. You can see them, probably. There we go. Yeah, these are flat one strings. They are Diodario, string gauge 40, 60, 80, 100. So this is my vintage style bass. This is what I usually pick up if I want to play some old school like Motown, or recently I did a Queen track. Anything that's got that kind of vintage sound to it. I always go for this. It's one of the cheapest basses I own, and it's also one of my favorites. If you ever try this, you'll understand why. It plays and sounds great. I plug my bass into a multi-effects and pick a half decent sound, but I can't seem to get that toppy sound that I like. Do I accentuate the mids, drop the bottom a bit? Is it okay to push the treble up? I just sound dull and muddy. So I think I need more information to give you a proper answer here, but here are a few things that you can do to get rid of that muddy sound on your bass. Number one, on every bass you'll find treble boost or treble cut knob, depending on how you look at it. Even on the sort of simplest instruments such as a PBass, you can turn the treble up and get a much treblier sound. Another is to change your strings, get brand new strings. That will make a big difference to the top end. If you can't afford new strings, check out this video. You will probably also have an EQ on your amp. On this one I've got a low mid, a high mid and a high. So obviously if you want treblier frequencies, you can turn the high up. And if you wanted to get rid of some of the low, you can turn the low down. I wouldn't go too extreme with these settings. I'd try and just make slight adjustments. Another thing you could do is play with a pick. That will give you more of a top end sound than playing with fingers. You could also try something like this. This is a bass soul food, which is I think it's a gain pedal. I don't really know what it is. But there's a treble knob on here, and you can sort of turn that up and give yourself more treble, more top end. But I think also you need to ask yourself, do you really want a really trebly sound if you're a bass player? I know it sounds great when you're playing on your own, but when you're in a band, a lot of the other instruments occupy that frequency range. So the bass really makes the band sound better when it's filling out the low end. So I don't think you should get too hung up on making your bass sound too trebly. Saying that, I don't really know your situation, but I'm hoping one of those things might be the answer to your question. Is the OC5 a darker shade of brown, or is it just the shadow? This is from my OC2, OC3, OC5 comparison video. So we got the OC2, OC3, and the OC5. So yeah, OC5 is clearly a darker shade. Looks like they've become darker each time they've been released. So it's either that or they faded over time. I couldn't really tell you, but this one is definitely the darkest brown. Someone asked, is that a Precision or a Jazz? So the one I was using in that video was not a Fender, but it's a Sandberg Jazz. So there are many differences between a Jazz and a Precision bass, but here are the kind of key features. So the Jazz has got two pickups, a neck pickup and a bridge pickup. On Fender style instruments, this controls the volume of this controls the volume of this, and this is that treble boost / cut knob. Precision basses, I've got this split pickup here. They've got no bridge pickup, so it's just one pickup, and you've got a volume, and the treble and boost cut is still there. So there's a lot less variety in the tone of a Fender Precision, and they're a lot chunkier, sort of bigger, not as easy to play generally. Both have got their unique kind of sound. A Fender Jazz kind of does an impression of a PBass, but a PBass does not do an impression of a Jazz. That makes sense. So why the 3 dots on the bass? So here's the bass, here is the 3 dots. Should be 4 dots, but one of them fell off. So it's just Sandberg. It's just the logo for Sandberg. So this one is lost one. So Sandberg, if you are watching by any chance, send me a new dot please. For someone about to buy a bass guitar for the first time, do you think learning on a micro bass would impair your ability to switch between full-size bass and still be able to play the same licks? This is the one that's in question. I think it's a 27-inch scale, which is very, very small for a bass. It's more like your guitar in terms of fret spacing. It's more towards a guitar. So what I'd say is, if you were beginning on one of these, there will be a transitional period where a full-size bass seems very big, but it won't take long to get used to it. So all the muscle memory that you develop will be transferable. There'll be a crossover period where it feels a bit weird. So what I don't recommend is getting a full-size bass and going straight to a gig without getting used to it. Yeah, you'll be fine. Just give it some time. Just want to say thank you again for everybody who has subscribed, all 1,000 of you. Relatively speaking, it's not a huge number compared to bigger YouTube channels, but to me 1,000 is a really big number. So thank you very much again. So I'm going to continue making videos, and this time next year maybe we'll have 2,000. Thank you.